Yo guys, what is going on? It is Invin here, and we are back again with, of course, the announcement now for the March PTR. A lot of you guys will have expected this one to come shortly after the announcement of the Heart of Madness that we got earlier today, which was, of course, the March content update. Now, the PTR for that is going live very, very shortly, and we're going to go quickly over the article and, more importantly, into the patch notes from the forums, because the actual article itself doesn't give us all that much new information, but the patch notes on the forums for the PTR give us loads of information. So it's a really juicy video. There's lots and lots of cool stuff to cover and kind of update you guys on. So hopefully you will enjoy this one. Obviously, as always, I will leave timestamps down below so you can skip around to certain things that do particularly take your interest. But of course, I do appreciate everybody that watches all the way through, as always. And of course, if you haven't already done so, please do go down below and drop a subscribe to the channel. It massively helps out me and my content here on YouTube, so it would be much, much appreciated. Without further ado, let's jump into it. So, of course, it's just basically announcing the PTR here, saying that they want to get, of course, as many of the bugs and issues, all that sort of stuff out of the way before we get into the official launch on the live servers. It does say, of course, about what the PTR is if you haven't played one before, but the most important part from this is, of course, that the PTR will officially open tomorrow, March 3rd at 10 AM PST or 6 PM UTC. Again, servers are limited with this one, so if it is going to be of high interest, which I would imagine this is, with it being a huge content update, do make sure you try and get yourselves on fairly early if you can, or, you know, do expect a few queues. There will only be one world available for this playtest cycle, and it will be located within the US East Regional Data Center. You may have to change your regional selection from the main menu in order to discover the available test world. For me, it's quite annoying because I would have preferred one on the EU because it's much better stability-wise, but I can understand why they're doing this, because obviously they don't want to put too many resources into that. But also they do want players to test it, so there's the availability there. Bear in mind, any of my EU friends or anyone from SA, US West, anything like that, we are going to have to change to US East in order to be able to play on this one. Now, obviously, the rest of this article pretty much just details what I talked about in earlier's video, which will be on screen for you guys now. If you do want to go ahead and watch that, it covers everything that's coming out new in the overview that we got earlier, which is really, really cool. But most importantly, we are now going to jump onto the forums. Now, just as an overview, I'm aware this isn't very easy to see, but as an overview of kind of the sheer volume of stuff that is here to look through and to go over, there's a lot, okay? So this is going to be a very big, hefty kind of content-based video. I am going to skip over some bits that are slightly less important than others in favor of trying to give you guys the most kind of important and crucial information kind of ahead of time as we can. Of course, if you're going to go in and play this tomorrow when it does launch, you will be able to see some of these things in action for yourself. And as always, I will leave this linked in the description so you can go through it at your own pace. Now, the first thing here is, of course, the Tempest's Heart, which is the brand new Merkgard expedition. The final showdown against Isabella is upon you. Enter the Tempest's Heart. Pursue the Tempest into a corrupted dimension of reality through the twisted capital of Merkgard. Discover the secrets of her past while you dive deeper into her corrupted mind. The Tempest's Heart is an endgame expedition for 5 players, recommended for level 60 plus players with a gear score between 550 and 570, so significantly higher than the other endgame ones. The main story, finale, quest, and more. Obviously, the main story picks up as you pursue Isabella back to the Shattered Mountain. The final quest, the Heart of the Tempest, is given to you by Ysault Meredith. They are located at Mountain Home Outpost in Shattered Mountains. Additional repeatable quests can be taken from Mara Rose in the Cathedral, just south of the expedition entrance. So that is going to be for your repeatable quests, obviously, within inside the expedition there. Now, of course, we also, from the Twitter post and in my earlier video today, the Blunderbuss is coming. So, of course, that will be in the game along with its relative legendary quest. We are going to see some new world experience stuff, and this is something which we didn't get told about earlier, which is rewarding exploration. New experiences have been added across the world for players to discover. The first thing is world paintings or vista views. 2 easels can be found in each territory. Upon interacting with these easels, players will be given a painting of the view for their house. If a player loses their painting, they can reacquire it by visiting the same easel again 24 hours later. So just a cool little thing. You can get a view kind of picture to put in your house. Again, nice little aesthetic thing. Cool little addition. Rafflebones for the Loot Collector. Rafflebones rummages around Eternum for lost treasures and goods. He will spawn all around the map at various levels in each territory. When players encounter Rafflebones, they will have 45 seconds to kill him in order to get the rewards, or else he'll flee. Players will always be awarded a named weapon. In addition, level 60 players will be given Obsidian Gypsum on a kill of any level of Rafflebones. Rafflebones who are found in zones that will go above level 60 will award level 60 players 500 Umbral Shards as well. So this is a really cool thing. This is, again, exactly what the players have been asking for, some open world bosses. And this guy's really cool. You'll always get a named item. You'll have a short amount of time to kill him, so it's like a challenge. You get the Obsidian Gypsum, and if you're in a level 60 plus zone, you're going to get 500 Umbral Shards as well. So it's a very generous amount, which is a few games of Outpost Rush, some crafting, some casts, or even a mutation dungeon. So this is really exciting. We also then have Stinky the Hunter. Stinky the legendary hunter can be found wandering around the swamps of Weaver's Fen throughout the day, while at night he retreats to his humble abode. Stinky can drop 3 named items for level 30 players, which are Stinky's Keepsake, Stinky's Sharpshooter, and Stinky's Hatchet. So again, for most players at endgame, it's not going to be something that's crucial, but it is a cool addition to the game, and for those that are still leveling or re-leveling characters, it's a cool little thing to get your hands on. A population of Yeti didn't get the memo that the Winter Convergence has passed and can be found wandering the frozen wastelands of the Great Cleave. These Yeti drop level 45 standard elite rewards. You also have roadside encounters. New random roadside encounters can be found along routes in Weaver's Fen and Restless Shore. So not too much information about what they are, but just random encounters going along, which is really cool. Unbound Island revamped the layout and encounter experience for Unbound Island in Cutlass Keys. Go forth and uncover the curse of Benjamin Botswain's ill-gotten treasure for early level 30 players. So again, in that leveling process, really cool thing there in Restless Shore. Then we also have Adromatus, which is a revamp the layout of the experience for Adromatus in Weaver's Fen. Blight continues to spread from Lepus, threatening to consume Eternum, again for mid-level 30 players. Now, of course, we've got mainly the first guy here that we talked about, Rafflebones. That seems to be for endgame, but the rest of them are for leveling players, which is interesting. It's kind of cool, but it would be interesting to see if we had some more for level 60, unless Rafflebones is going to actually be that good and it's going to be the one we go for. Have to wait and see till we get hands on, but that is very cool indeed, and it's something that all players have been asking for, so I think this is a great addition. Now, they've also put in some notable bug world fixes, but I'm going to go over bug fixes in a separate video specifically on that, so we're going to leave that out for today. General fixes for bad collision, bad death planes, camp placements in allowable camp areas, holes in the world, floating objects, flickering or missing textures, and AI and gatherables under terrain or cliffs. So just to cover those there, that's stuff that you're going to see generally fixed up around the world, which is always a welcomed change. Now, they've also done some general AI fixes, which again, I'm going to gloss over for now, even though they are fairly cool. I just want to get into some more of the meaty content stuff. Expeditions is a big one. They have updated the queue requirements for expeditions to require only one person at the entrance while porting the other players in, which is a massive thing for a lot of people. Whoever's got the key can just go over, get yourselves in, and everybody else can just TP in. That's a really good QOL thing that they've added there, so I wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. Also, they have changed the Garden of Genesis Blighted Greenskeeper again. They've also fixed an issue where the animation for interacting with the Azov sapling in the Garden of Genesis could stutter and fail randomly. So again, just smoothing out that expedition experience. Now, what they've done as well in difficulty in terms of mutators, the difficulty of the named AI have been tuned down while the bosses have been tuned up. So the regular named mini bosses are going to be less good. The actual bosses themselves are going to be a bit more difficult. Tooltips for major curses no longer appear on mutated difficulties less than 9, because again, that makes sense, that's where they come in. Desiccated, they have fixed an issue where you would sometimes stop combustible chains from continuing to chain if there was valid targets. They've also fixed an issue allowing combustible to deal damage to invulnerable AI, and fixed an issue causing combustible timer to show the wrong text when hovered over. They've also looked at Eternal, where Paranoid no longer triggers on damage over time effects, so your dots, mainly that's going to be in terms of your Oblivion for the Void Gauntlet users, that was a big one. It's actually no longer going to trigger your Paranoid, which is a really good thing. Again, burning with the Fire Staff, another one, so that's actually probably a very welcome change by many players. Now, combat is a big thing that they've actually changed here, and in this update we're making a highly requested quality of life improvement. You can now move while using your inventory. This is a huge thing that we've wanted since day one, so this is great news. Whether you're using directional inputs or auto run, opening your inventory will no longer stop you in your tracks. Feel free to examine your loot or swap your gear while running to the next point of interest. Be careful while you're on the move though, because you won't be allowed to change equipment if you are in combat, which brings us to the next new feature. So this is obviously the in-combat system, which is new, and that is a really good change about the inventory open while you are running around. That's really, really helpful, and I think a lot of players are going to be very happy with that. Now, the new in-combat system tracks when the player is actively engaged in any type of combat and restricts some actions accordingly. When a player enters combat, their health, mana, and stamina bars will become visible, and a crossed swords icon will appear in the top right of their health bar. While in this state, players will not be able to change abilities or equipment, and this replaces the previous functionality that prevented abilities and equipment from being changed while abilities were on cooldown. So it's no longer a cooldown effect, it is now called in combat. So that's really cool, and that is how they've then allowed us to get away with opening the inventory while moving, whilst it also not being broken for people switching mid-fight. So again, great changes, very, very nice for QOL, and I think a lot of us will be really, really happy with that one. Now again, they've done a lot of general changes here. Most notably, you're going to see that they've healing here. They have fixed an issue where incoming healing efficiency modification was incorrectly being capped at 50% instead of 100. So that's going to be a big thing for healers and also for players receiving the healing. Also here you will see that flint arrows, these arrows have been removed from the game due to the addition of infinite ammo. Any flint arrows previously created will become iron arrows. Additionally, any flint arrows posted on the trading post will be cancelled and returned as iron arrows to the player who posted the listing. Now, of course, with that, infinite ammo has been added, so players can now fire ranged weapons, musket, bows, and blunderbuss without equipping ammo. If no ammo is equipped, an ammo counter will not be displayed on the reticle, and the weapon will still be allowed to fire. If players have higher tier ammo equipped in a game mode that provides infinite ammo, such as Outpost Russ, an infinity icon will appear at the side of the reticle instead to distinguish it from having no ammo equipped. Ammo rarity / damage tiers have been updated as follows. So tier 1 is now infinite, which was previously flint, and that is regular 1x damage. Tier 2, which is your iron, is 1.05 times. Tier 3 is 1.10, which is your steel. Tier 4 star metal is 1.15, and Tier 5 orichalcum is 1.2 times. Ammo weight has been removed, so that is a big thing for a lot of players. No more ammo weight whatsoever, and increase the maximum stack for ammo from 500 to 1,000. So you've got double the stack and no weight on these, which is amazing. It means you can craft up and take with you enough ammo to last you however long you would need it to. So that is really, really good. And of course, that comes with the introduction of the Blunderbuss, which you will see here is the ranged weapon that offers high mobility, coupled with the potent close to mid-range DPS. It's the first weapon to scale on both strength and intelligence, making it a great companion for bruisers and mages alike. The containment tree is all about closing the gap and unloading hot lead into your enemy's face. Conversely, the chaos tree focuses on keeping your distance and bombarding areas with explosive AoE damage. Now, of course, that's the brand new weapon, but we've also seen some changes to the weapons that we already had in the game. Now, firstly here, starting with the fire staff, which received a fairly large buff with the latest February patch. We have now seen burning updated. The burning debuff applied by several fire staff abilities. They have increased damage tick rate from 1.5 to 1 second, decreased the maximum stacks from 10 to 5, increased damage per stack from 3% weapon damage to 6%. So of course you've got half the stacks, but you've now got double the damage, so it makes sense. It's going to be applying more often. And updated tooltips for all of the affected abilities. So it seems initially like it might be a nerf because it's decreased, but with the increased tick rate damage and of course the increased damage per stack to 6%, it's actually had a bit of a buff there, so burning is going to be a really, really good ability. They've also fixed an issue that prevented players from interrupting repeated light attacks with a block. Burnout, this ability now ends early if the player traverses into deep water, so you can't use burnout through water. Kind of makes sense with it being a fire staff. Flamethrower, accelerating flamethrower item perk, fixed an issue where this perk did not properly scale its potency with gear score. So again, with the double movement that we saw for flamethrower introduced with the February update, accelerating flamethrower item perk, now with it increasing with gear score potency, could become a very decent perk, especially for PvE. So do keep your eyes peeled on that and maybe try try to stock up on a few if they are cheap on your server before this update comes out, of course. Next, we're looking at Great Axe. Here we've seen Bloodlust adjusted detection volume to prevent exploits between dueling players, and they've also changed Charge. This ability now ends early if the player traverses into deep water, so you're not going to be able to go through the water as easily. This one isn't anything to do with it being fire, this is just they don't want you to be able to do that, so bear that in mind. You're not going to be able to traverse quite as easily through these deep water regions. Hatchet, you've seen Raging Torrent, Refreshing Torrent item perk, fixed an issue where the final attack of Raging Torrent was not triggering the cooldown reduction for this perk. And then Feral Rush has had Energizing Feral Rush changed, which has fixed an issue where the item perk would not apply the stamina gain on both its hits of Feral Rush, and Feral Rush now ends early if the player traverses into deep water, again meaning that you can't dash through it. The Ice Gauntlet has seen some pretty substantial changes here, namely with the heavy attack. They have fixed an issue where the heavy attack could be charged with insufficient mana and a light attack would be performed at the end of the charge. The functionality has been changed so that attempting to charge without sufficient mana will instead trigger a light attack immediately. Fixed an issue that prevented players from interrupting repeated light attacks with a block. Entombed, Healing Entombed, the item perk, has fixed an issue that prevented this perk from functioning properly if the player exited Entombed state by dodging. Heavy Freeze, they've fixed the typo. Ice Spikes, they've fixed an issue where the Mighty Spikes visual would not appear in some circumstances. And then finally, Wind Chill, they've fixed an issue where this ability could trigger the Defiant Freeze passive even when cancelled. Now, a big one here is the Life Staff, and it's just clearing up how the Life Staff actually works as well, so making it a lot more cleaner and friendly for people to use and actually see what their abilities are doing. Orb of Protection, they have fixed a text error with the tooltip that stated it healed for 10% weapon damage when it actually healed for 8%. The actual healing values were not changed, only the text was corrected, so it's going to heal for the same amount, just updated tooltip. Sacred Protection fixed an issue which caused this passive to deal durability damage to the equipped weapon when swapping. Spirits United fixed an issue which caused this passive to deal durability damage to the equipped weapon when swapping. Sacred Ground Blessed upgrade changed the name of this upgrade to be Anointed so as to be not confused with the item perk of the same name, and they've fixed an issue where this upgrade provided healing through the Ice Gauntlet's Entombed ability. This will no longer happen. Light and heavy attacks with the Life Staff can now be cancelled by self-targeted heals, and they have also fixed an issue that allowed light attacks to fire at a faster rate while holding the block button. Divine Embrace fixed an issue where the channeling UI element did not match the actual casting time of the ability. Musket, we've seen Shooter's Stance fixed here, which was an issue where Shooter's Stance was increasing the meter for Censored Mutator if the player entered and exited the stance without the ability going on cooldown. It will now earn the increment of the meter after the first shot is fired whilst in Shooter's Stance. Marksman, they have fixed an issue where the upgrade was not functioning properly. Back It Up, they have fixed an issue where the passive was disabled while using Sticky Bomb. Critical Reload, they have fixed an issue that caused the sound effects for this passive to play incorrectly and improved reliability of hit countering, so again cleaned up the musket nicely there. Rapier, they've looked at Tondo, fixed an issue where using the evade to cancel Tondo could result in damage being dealt without showing the visual effects. Flurry, they have fixed an issue where the ability could not be cancelled using Flesh. Flesh, this ability now ends early if the player traverses into deep water. Again, they're not liking us travelling through there, which makes me believe that the new expedition is probably going to have deep water in. Momentum, they have fixed an issue where the visual effects for this passive would persist even if the rapier was sheathed or swapped. Sword and Shield, we've seen Leadership fixed an issue which caused the passive to deal durability damage to the equipped weapon when swapping. Leaping Strike, the ability now ends early if the player traverses into deep water again. And Counter Attack fixed an issue that caused the ability to stop functioning and display 0 seconds for all of its values. Void Gauntlet, we've seen here Heavy Attack, fixed an issue where the heavy attack could be charged with insufficient mana and a light attack could be performed at the end of the charge. The functionality has been changed so that attempting to charge without sufficient mana will instead trigger a light attack immediately. Like with the Ice Gauntlet, they're just kind of clearing those up to make it a lot more friendly and a lot more predictable as to how this will actually work. Warhammer, we've seen changes to Path of Destiny, which is going to be the stimulated reduction. They have updated description to specify that the cooldown reduction only occurs on the first 4 enemies hit by this skill. Mighty Gavel, Justice for All, they have fixed an issue that caused the second hit to refresh the cooldown of the ability, and Outnumbered, they have fixed an issue that prevented this passive from functioning when its conditions were met, so this should now be a more consistent perk and passive that applies generally. Now we've seen a lot of changes to items here as well, most notably up here we've seen Chain Elemental perks. It now indicates that the chain deals 11% weapon damage, so it actually gives you the values for that. The next thing we've seen here is damage ward perks. The Abyssal ward perk provided by the Amethyst gems previously had a higher damage absorption rate than other gems which provided elemental defense. In this update we are bringing the values provided by all gems across the board in order to normalize this change. Gems that provide physical resistance have had a smaller increase, however, since physical damage tends to be more common. So what they've changed is the Abyssal ward here. They've changed only tier 1 and tier 2, which have now gone to a 3 and 4% from 2.5 and 3.5, and then consistently sticking with the 5 and 6% at tier 3 and tier 4. Then you will also see the Thrust, Slash and Strike wards again have been increased to 2, 3, 4 and 5%. Strike ward, they have fixed an issue where the perk was incorrectly stated it reduced lightning damage. It doesn't apparently. And then also Arcane, Ice, Fire, Nature, Lightning wards increase their damage absorption from 2, 2.5, 3 and 3.75 to 3, 4, 5 and 6%, meaning that all of the different Arcane, Ice, Fire, Nature, Lightning and Abyssal wards are all on exactly the same thing depending on which tier you have, which of course is a really good thing. Normalizes it across the board, makes it easy to predict and easy to understand as a player. Now there's been some major updates to things like Bloodletting here. This is a ring perk and it's increased the bleeding duration bonus from 5 to 15% to 10 to 30%. Burning, which is another ring perk, has increased the burning duration bonus from 5 to 15 to again 10 to 30%. And then Divine, which is an amulet perk, they have fixed an issue where this perk's bonus was being removed on death. So again, if you had Divine on, this should now be a lot better. Plentiful Shells and Arrows, they've updated the description for these perks to clarify and added previously unlisted 2-second cooldowns. And Retaliate, this perk has been reworked from giving a damage bonus for 3 hits after being hit 3 times to giving a 2-second damage bonus after getting hit 1 time. This will not refresh while already active, so every time it goes off, you're then going to be able to get that buff back up. So this is actually probably going to be quite a good perk now, so keep your eyes peeled on that one, particularly the craft mods. So game modes, again, a lot of QOL stuff here that's really, really good. The first thing is going to be that game mode items such as the Outpost Rush consumables will now auto-equip to your hotbar when purchased, provided that there is an empty slot available. Amazing update. Players can now queue for wars and invasions from their map. Again, amazing. Something we've all been asking for, so really, really good. Elite Boss Arenas. They've increased the quantity and quality of the rewards that players will receive from reward caches granted from Elite Boss Arenas. Successfully completing a boss arena now rewards 50 Umbral Shards. Again, amazing change. That's really, really good. Bringing it in line with other tasks and making it much more worthwhile, so fantastic. Massive change to war here. You will see that defenders will no longer be able to respawn on points A, B and C. They can only respawn inside of their fort. This is going to be a huge change and is going to change the emphasis from it being much easier to defend to probably being much easier to attack. So we'll see how that goes. Obviously, you've got the space to be able to run back. You've got the siege equipment on the walls, so it's more protected. So it is still going to favour the defenders somewhat, but this could be a huge change and we'll have to see what we think about this actually going into the servers and testing it, and of course on the PTR and then on the live servers as well. They've also increased the quantity and quality of the rewards that players will receive from the reward caches granted from war. Again, great addition. It'd be great to see some Umbral Shards thrown in there as well, but this is a really nice addition. Invasion, they have increased the quality and quantity of the rewards that players will receive from the rewards, again, granted from these caches from Invasions. Again, throwing some Umbral Shards there might be nice because then it just gives every activity you get more progression, but I do like that this has been the case. It will be interesting to see as well if they have got a good chance at providing an expertise bump with these reward upgrades, but we'll have to wait and see again how that works in the PTR and live servers. Now, Outpost Rush specifically, they have removed the down state from Outpost Rush. Players will now immediately die when hitting 0 health. This is really good because it means that players who are obviously going to be getting those kills, you actually get the kill that you deserve now. People are not going to be sniping kills or just waiting to grab those kills by accident when they're using abilities, whatever. And also it's going to put more emphasis on getting involved in the fight early doors rather than waiting until people are low, because you will actually get the rewards like we know from the previous update with damage and assists and that sort of stuff is now getting players way higher up in the Outpost Rush leaderboards. So this is going to mean that's more smooth. Credit for killing a player now goes to the player who kills an enemy instead of the player who puts them into death's door. Obviously, that makes sense. Players will now receive score credit for contesting a control point, so you'll actually be able to get some score by standing on the objectives, which again is a really, really good change and something that was much needed. And teams can now see the enemy progress towards a corrupted brute token on the map, so that'll be a really good thing as well. They've made some changes to the starter beach, which I'm going to skip over here, but durability loss, only your equipped items will take durability loss when you die. Massive QOL thing for a lot of players. Bear that in mind, that's going to be a huge thing, especially if you're trying to sell stuff, so great little addition there. Sign up is now available from the map like we saw above for invasions and wars, really good thing there. Territory storage, they have removed the cost associated with moving items between territory storage. Your faction no longer needs to own both territories in order to transfer items between your storages. So you can literally just flick items around between storages now, and it's not even going to cost you anything. You don't need your territory to be owned by your faction. Great QOL update for a lot of players. It's going to make it much easier for organization of your inventories and just accessing items where you need them, which is a really positive change, especially for the crafters. They're going to love that one. Player-to-player collision has also been changed here, and they've removed from open worlds, expeditions, and invasions. So you're not actually going to collide with other players, you're just going to go through them, which I think is really a good thing, of course, unless we take it to the open world PvP. I don't know how that's going to work. It could be an interesting one, but we will see how that goes about it. I'm assuming if you flag up for PvP, that will not be the case, but it does mean as you're running around, players are not going to be able to block you from certain locations, which I think is going to be a very nice thing, and it's not going to annoy you bumping into people all the time in the streets of the settlements. Also, with fast travel, now we know that the costs have been reduced a lot. They have said that it is now more responsive when travelling short distances. They've updated some stuff with quests here as well. They've also done various notable fixes throughout the game, which again, I'm going to skip over in favour of shortening this video as much as I can because it's going to be a heavily packed one. We've got some economy, progression, and reward stuff here, which is players will get back half of the original purchase cost when abandoning a house. So if you are going to abandon one, maybe wait till the end of March, because we are probably going to see that come into fruition then, and that's going to be a really decent thing, especially if you spent 20,000 on a house, you're going to get 10,000 back if you have to abandon it. But even if it's the 5k one, 2.5k back from that, it's still pretty good. They've doubled the storage bonus for all tiers of storage chests. Chests that used to provide 200 weight of bonus storage now provide 400, etc. So again, storage chests, if you're looking to make money, these are going to go up massively in price. Try to buy some cheap on your servers before people clock onto this, because this is a really important change. So do get ahead of the curve with that one. Adjusted the description of storage chests to better indicate the benefit that they provide, and they've also adjusted the description on trophies to better clarify the actual benefit provided by these items. So again, hopefully we'll see maybe some percentages or some actual numbers on there, but that's really good. In terms of rewards, they've said that harvest, log, and mine to uncover hidden stashes of earthy rewards. Elemental motes, coins, and diamond gypsum are waiting to be uncovered as you gather on Eternum, so that could be anywhere around the world. That is really cool. I really like that. Elite boss area keys may now drop from enemies in the surrounding elite zones, which is a huge thing. It is going to mean that people are going to be way less farming for the materials, but of course you need to farm the materials from the mobs as well, but it does encourage those elite zones to be played a lot more often, so that's a great change. Fixed an issue where the expeditions could improperly drop loot intended for areas outside of that expedition. So I think that's probably, again, to do with consumables for creating the key. Fixed an issue causing the ancient tier 5 muskets to sometimes drop from Angry Earth enemies, and fixed an issue causing invasion weapon drops to be exceedingly rare. They should now be significantly more likely, and this change also makes the named weapons drops from invasions very slightly more likely as well. So big changes towards those there, and again we could be seeing things like Corrupted Bane on those weapons, which of course will be amazing for your new expedition if it's corrupted, which we think it is at the moment. We're not 100% sure, but of course Dynasty Shipyard with the mutated version of that as well, we could be seeing some great weapon drops from these invasions. Now, we've also seen some changes to crafting here. Most notably, the amount of materials required to craft an elite area tuning orbs have been reduced. Obviously, with the ability for these to be dropped by the mobs now, that does make sense. They now require 3 runestones down from 5, 3 of the orb specific materials, whether it's Firefox, Fancy Shell, or Glowing Swamp Moss, again down from 5. Now, the crafting mod selector pop-up is now sorted alphabetically so that you can actually have a look through that, which I think, again, is really good. A lot of people will like that little QOL thing. New perks have been added to the world, and new perk items have also been added, so bear that in mind. Now, in terms of gear and loot here, they've fixed a load of visual issues, but they've also changed some things with old amulet rings and earrings now have the proper trading post categories, that sort of stuff. Daily cooldowns now refresh each day at 5 AM in the server's region's time zone. Weekly cooldowns refresh Tuesday at 5 AM in each server's region's time zone. That is a huge, huge change. It was, 18 hours, 20 hours, 22 hours, whatever, after you'd gathered the gypsum or after you've crafted the orb. It is now a fixed daily limit. So at 5 AM on your server's time, it will reset every single day, and every single Tuesday at 5 AM will be your weekly resets. So note that one down in the calendars for yourselves. It's going to be a really important one to notice. This does fall in line with other type of MMOs, and it's something that this community has been asking for a long time. So again, I think that's a really, really positive change, and just shows that AGS is really actually listening to its community massively, which is amazing. So they've also added some UX, UI, and social stuff. Firstly, quality of life. The most notable thing here is going to be that the player's average gear score now appears on the player's tooltip in the warboard, so we should be able to see that. They've also changed some things about messaging, and there's quite a lot of messaging stuff here. Generally just fixed up lots of issues there and made it much more smooth and streamlined. Usability is the same thing, lots of fixes, and the same with audio. So I'm not going to cover all of those in depth, but like I said, this article will be linked in the description, so if you do want to check it out for yourself, please do feel free to do so. So there's been a lot to digest in this video, a lot of stuff coming with this March update, and most notably, there's open world encounters and mini bosses, which are really, really cool, and some changes to the way that these expeditions are going to work, as well as the rewards and loot that we're going to get from every activity, including getting umbral shards from those arenas, which is a really, really cool update given how accessible they're actually going to be now. I'm super excited to try out the brand new expedition, of course, and the new blunderbuss weapon, so as soon as I can get hands on with those, I'll bring you guys some video updates talking about what they're like, what you can do with them, and maybe some initial thoughts, that sort of thing. So stay tuned to the channel over the next couple of days for all of this upcoming content. There is a ton to cover, so hopefully you guys will enjoy it. If you have stuck through with me to the end of this video, massive thank you, and I hope you have enjoyed and found this video useful and informative. Feel free to go back and skip through to the points that you want to with the timestamps down below, but I would like to thank you all for watching. That is going to be it for today's video, and again, I'll be back with you guys very, very shortly with some brand new content. Thank you all very much for watching, and take care, guys. Peace.